Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an incredible day. Very intense news around the cryptocurrency space as of late, and without further ado, let's jump right into it. The U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or the CFTC, has cleared the way for crypto derivatives provider ErisX to offer futures contracts with a new license approved on Monday. ErisX, which is backed by U.S. brokerage TD Ameritrade, announced that the CFTC granted it a Derivatives Clearing Organization DCO license, acting as a secondary approval on top of an existing Designated Contract Market DCM license that the exchange already had. The approval means the company can now launch crypto future products under the watchful eye of the U.S. regulator. While no firm timeline was provided, ErisX's announcement said it would launch its futures contracts, which would be physically settled, meaning customers would receive Bitcoin and not the cash equivalent, later this year. In a statement, ErisX CEO Thomas Chippas said the company is unique because it is divided the trading and settlement functions using traditional DCM exchange and DCO clearing models. He said, "This reflects the structure that institutional investors expect from other asset classes and will help drive these markets toward greater relevance and accessibility." This is almost immediately after we had indication that right here, the people from LedgerX were given the go-ahead by the CFTC, I believe it was last week, to finally offer physically settled Bitcoin futures. For those who don't understand the significance of this, pretty much what it comes down to in the quickest way possible is that there's pretty much two ruling governances at the moment that are trying to control the cryptocurrency space. Well, there's three. It's the SEC, the CFTC, and the IRS. You don't typically hear that much about the IRS. It's pretty much as long as you're paying taxes on anything you've cashed out, the IRS typically doesn't really care. There's nothing really firm or mega concrete at the moment. The most significant part is that the SEC has been trying to control anything that they deem a security or anything that is purchased with the expectation of profit from a company. And this is where they're kind of gearing their interest towards. But the CFTC, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, has been trying to get everything under control. Every single major company, financial, whatever you want to call it, within the cryptocurrency space, they're trying to make sure that they understand the space, and they're trying to make sure that they have stated before that what is happening within the cryptocurrency space is okay for investors and is okay for consumers. A lot of this comes down to the fact that it's going to be very rich people who are going to be playing this game now, and the CFTC and the SEC want to make sure that their friends are comfortable. That's the nicest way of really putting it. There's no real other way to kind of say it. The point is, what we had before in 2017 is that we had Bitcoin futures that were launched. Pretty much the simplest way is that you are betting on the future price of Bitcoin. So we call it Bitcoin futures. What was happening before in 2017 when one of them got approved is that it was a cash settled Bitcoin future. So when you're betting on the price of Bitcoin, and let's say you get it correct, you were handed cash as opposed to anything else. But now what's happening is that people are going to be transferring back and forth Bitcoin during these exchanges. And this is where when we talk about the major players getting into the game, the big money, you know, the billions and billions of dollars swinging back and forth. It kind of comes down to this, because it's no longer going to be a situation where we see premiums on Bitcoin's price, or Bitcoin's price does this, or Bitcoin is doing so and so, and people are simply handing back and forth US dollars. We're going to be able to see this actual volume playing out through the Bitcoin blockchain as people are going to be transacting Bitcoin directly. There's a whole bunch of clearing houses and third-party members and all this other stuff that had to be almost initiated, activated, found, used, whatever word you kind of want to put in there. What's significant is that the CFTC, for what it's worth, has been a lot quicker than the SEC and this entire thing as far as the movement or validation or activation or thumbs up approval, green lighting for allowing these things to finally happen. At the moment, we have LedgerX, who has been approved for physically settled Bitcoin futures, and also TD Ameritrade. And I think the third gigantic piece of the puzzle is the people from the New York Stock Exchange. Just my opinion, it logically seems that if ErisX, a subsidiary of TD Ameritrade, and LedgerX have been approved for physically settled Bitcoin futures, logically we should probably see and also a thumbs up from the or rather for the NASDAQ and also for the New York Stock Exchange, as these are larger corporation entities than TD Ameritrade and Ledger X. But the point is, finally got it, thumbs up. We can find, I mean, not even really move on. It's more like it shouldn't have taken this long in the first place. I understand why government agencies say what they say, or that they're trying to protect consumers. That fly on my arm. Trying to protect consumers. That's cool. That's awesome. If you really read between the lines, it always comes down to the fact that they're trying to make sure that when, like I said, their friends, people with an enormous amount of money, get into the cryptocurrency space. If people are trading 50, 30, 40, 80, 90 million dollars during a given week, a given month, through these things, that they have some type of way to not lose their money, because the last thing you want, or the last thing that they want, is to have someone else really rich say, hey, I lost $100 million this year because of your network, because of your so-and-so, and so this didn't work, this didn't happen. You now are required to pay me back, or I'm going to sue you. So this is you know, it's all about consumer protection as far as protecting the rich people. That's just kind of how things are. Anyway, the point is, this has finally been launched, legalized, thumbs up, whatever you kind of want to call it. I mean, these are significant, don't get me wrong, by any stretch of the line. I'm just waiting for the NASDAQ and the people from the New York Stock Exchange to finally be in the news from the CFTC giving them the thumbs up. I'm pretty certain, like I said before in another video, when the people from, this is why it says beat backed, because I think the people from Ledger X had put in their bid to have physically settled Bitcoin futures. I think it was no more than a week before the people from the New York Stock Exchange did it. So by now, we should have had some type of clarification as to them getting a thumbs up. But instead, we got TD Ameritrade, which is also just as good, because they also have a huge amount of money that they're going to be controlling and swinging back and forth. Is going to be going through the Bitcoin network. And without further ado, let us move on. Next up, the Russian Ministry of Finance will not issue any special regulations for Facebook's upcoming digital currency known as Libra. Deputy Minister Alexei Moiseev said on Monday, answering reporters' questions, Moiseev said Libra will be treated in Russia like any other digital asset, regulations for which are coming. According to the news agency Interfax, apparently the people from Russia have been, first of all, the people in Russia have been saying that we're going to get, not me, I'm not in Russia, that the people within Russia would get cryptocurrency regulation since 2018. It has not happened, and the news that we've been having literally for the past 5 weeks is that in 2 weeks, Russia was going to get cryptocurrency regulations. Keep that in mind. 5 weeks ago, we had news that in 2 weeks, Russia would have crypto regulation, and they still do not have it. Alexei Moiseev said, and I do quote, nobody is going to ban it. On the other hand, here we go, no cryptocurrency of any sort will ever become legal tender in Russia, Moiseev said. He said the ruble is our national currency, and all operations should be conducted using it, end quote. I feel, this is just my opinion, a lot of countries around the world may not be experiencing hyperinflation, but their fiat currencies are not doing well. That goes along the lines of some of the largest fiat currencies that we have in the world right now. And if their currencies aren't doing well, it's fairly safe to assume that other currencies that aren't as strong or as monetarily backed are probably not also going to be doing that well within the next, I want to say, 5 years in the future. The point to be made is a lot of governments, and I think maybe there's maybe one other, instance of this in another thing that we're going to be talking about. But a lot of governments, I mean, they can't say it. Like, you can't say something like that out loud. Can you imagine what would happen to the world's economy if the one of the heads of Russia, the deputy minister of finance, came forward and said, our currency is not that good, so we think we are going to be using Bitcoin. I feel like I did an accent there and I didn't mean to do it. Anyway, the point is, they have to say things like this, but they know behind the scenes that they have to kind of change the way that things are working. I'm fairly certain within the next couple of years that Russia and many other countries are either going to be launching their own cryptocurrency in a sort of way to be able to say, no, it's still the ruble. Or what I'm still waiting for is that, I mean, it has already happened, to be fair, countries around the world talking about either using Bitcoin or using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as a mean of transacting value. And that has already happened in Venezuela. Not even counting the other countries talking about building, or rather having Bitcoin bonds. I feel that it's going to happen rather sooner than later, especially because of the speed of which everything is actually happening right now. Continuing on, it says, rather, cryptocurrencies will have a status similar to foreign currencies. He said, it will be possible to buy it, sell it, keep it, but not use it to pay for goods and services. Moissif said of crypto, yes, the legitimate market should be formed, but it's out of the question that under the banner of a legitimate market, everything is possible, end quote. Although it is not the leading social media platform in Russia, Facebook has a significant presence in the world's 9th most populous country, with a 39% market share by one measure. So there's a lot of, Facebook coin is basically in the news every single day. There's no kind of way to get around it. There was a point where I was kind of like, I'm not going to talk about this anymore, but it's actually very important because we're seeing the growth of the cryptocurrency sector because of something that hasn't yet even been launched, or that might not actually even be launched, because the amount of backlash that they're getting for this entire thing is actually quite significant. And this is why I keep mentioning before, and I mentioned to other people, once again, I don't know if these people are trolls or if people are just doing it because they have nothing better to do. This is why things like Bitcoin are very important, because Bitcoin is permissionless. You can use it without having permission. And what is looking like right now for Facebook's cryptocurrency is that you will not even need permission. You will need a book's worth of documents to be able to do something. And the growth of this thing that Facebook is trying to launch, we're seeing it's not a revolution. It's more like not a contemplation. It's like they're finally coming to the idea that they can't get rid of digital assets or cryptocurrencies, which the Libra is not. So that they're trying to react accordingly to make sure that they continue to have the power in this situation. And this is why he said, we're not going to ban it, but you definitely can't use it. You can't use it to pay for stuff. You can definitely, you can hold it if you're handed you want, but the ruble will always be their national currency, etc., etc., etc. It's very fascinating because normally when it comes to cryptocurrencies, especially years ago and even sometimes now, I feel like Bitcoin is like this taboo word that governments just won't say out loud because they're afraid of giving it any type of legitimacy. Like I'm sure you've noticed as well, like pay attention to everything that's like whenever you hear stuff about this in the news, it's usually newscasters like talking about the price of Bitcoin went up, Bitcoin went down, Bitcoin did this, there's a new Bitcoin, there's a so, and like it's always something along those lines, but you never hear of governments or government leaders ever come forward explicitly talking about a cryptocurrency, or more so even talking explicitly about Bitcoin, even when they know that it's there, it's sitting in the back of their mind as something that they have to deal with. And the only way for them to be able to kind of make sense of it all, or to kind of say, hey, this is going to happen in accordance with something that so-and-so is happening, is to kind of put Facebook at the front of all of it. Because if you can say, well, Facebook is doing this, they're creating this, and it looks similar to that, well, then everything kind of falls in the same exact basket, and we don't have to mention the name Bitcoin out loud. Because if you follow financial news or anything that has to do with the world right now, you can tell that, or rather, it has become fairly obvious to me over the last couple of years that the entire rhetoric and everything that I heard about Bitcoin many moons ago is going to come true, is going to happen. Bitcoin is going to be adopted in a such a massive way that I think a lot of people around the world, even a lot of people within the cryptocurrency space, aren't mentally ready for it. And I think they don't really understand the actual usage and use case and how this is going to shape their entire world. There are people who get it. I totally understand that. Great, wonderful, glad we're on the same team. But this is coming as a shock to many other world leaders who didn't think that any of this was going to happen. There was a podcast I was listening to a couple days ago, and it was really interesting. The guy was saying that we knew, or rather, people within the cryptocurrency space had indications. Remember in February, and I think even like November of last year, we were getting like little sprinkles of news that apparently, allegedly, Facebook was going to be creating their own coin. It was called Global Coin. Like we had, very tiny bits of fragments of news, and the guy was saying that within the cryptocurrency space, everyone knew about this. Everyone had in some way prepared themselves for the idea of Facebook creating their own coin. But even the day before, when we were supposed to have received a statement from the people from Facebook, it was like it was very quiet space around the normal traditional economic world. But the moment that the people from Facebook announced that this was going to happen, every country was immediately up in arms talking about, whoa, 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 what's going on? Because they had no idea what was happening. I wonder what it's like to be so high up on a pyramid that you can't even see the ground anymore. Like they didn't even see this as a thing that was going to happen, or even if it did happen, this would have no effect on us. Like it was completely out of they have such tunnel vision that they only see their world that they've built and nothing else can kind of compete with it. And this is why Facebook and even just Facebook and cryptocurrencies in general and Bitcoin are so phenomenal, because they've taken so long to act on this. And now it's directly in front of their face. It's something that you can't blink. You even see it when you close your eyes. And this is why, this is what So the fact that they're all coming out in droves now, countries, governments, central banks, to explicitly talk about Facebook's coin because they can't ignore it anymore. I find it incredibly fascinating that we finally reached this point. I mean, it took Facebook to get us there. I don't like Facebook. But the point is that we are at this point where they can't ignore us anymore, and they're desperately trying to figure out a way to navigate the entire space just to be able to try and remain relevant when they had 10 years to do so. And that's kind of the most funny part of all of it. Anyway, I can't read Russian, but here's the actual article about what we were just talking about in Russian. And without further ado, let's move on. Next up, Master Chain, the bank blockchain project developed under the watchful eye, once again, of the Russian central bank, is missing the mark. The project's key participant told CoinDesk. Sberbank, once again in Russia, Sberbank, Russia's largest bank, has decided to wind down its participation in Master Chain. This was said by Oleg Abdrashitov, head of the institution's blockchain lab, calling the system inefficient, insecure, and slow. Brashitov said his bank will shift its blockchain work to other, more widely used enterprise platforms. Master Chain does not satisfy the requirements for Sberbank's use case, so for all future exploration, we will use enterprise blockchain platforms such as Hyperledger Fabric or Quorum. This is what he said. To be clear, Sberbank will finish what it started with Master Chain, but won't initiate any new work. In an interview last month, Brashitov offered a rare view into the discrete world of enterprise blockchain projects, where dissatisfied participants usually exit projects quietly. His candor is especially noticeable coming from such a large player. Sberbank commands a 50% share of the Russian mortgage market. To focus on Master Chain's initial use case, Master Chain was launched in 2017. Not that important. The cost of Master Chain's development is not public. However, according to earlier public disclosures, the 13 members of the FinTech Association are paying $120,000 to $230,000 a year to participate, which means the project may have burned through a couple of millions of dollars over the last couple of years. Neither the Bank of Russia nor the AFT responded to requests for comment by press time. Even just moving backwards. Whew. I love that there are so many cryptocurrency project chains, blockchain solution, DLT stuff where you have to pay money in order to participate. When we talk about permissionless chains, this is why they are going to be the future. It is interesting to see that having to pay millions of dollars to be able to do something that doesn't even work is hilarious to me, and I love seeing news like that. This is why I find it very interesting that in order to use, or rather to run a node, a validating node on Facebook's future fake blockchain, whatever they're calling it, that you have to pay $10 million just to have the chance to be able to do so. I think it's very fascinating, once again, that a central bank, or the largest bank in Russia, has come forward to talk about that they're not going to be using a certain product. I forgot, the other ones that they were talking about using, Hyperledger Fabric or Quorum. I find stuff like this incredibly fascinating, especially because normally this news is not available for us. We are not afforded the privilege to be able to hear the words of large banking institutions around the world, and especially what they plan on doing behind the scenes. A lot of the things that are being created, that are being built for enterprise use, are not going to be used in a couple of years. And this is why, rolling it back a little tiny bit, This is why I see things like Ethereum being incredibly successful within the future, because the amount of adoption that we've seen for things like Ethereum, even with its slow transactions, is very, you should find it indicative of exactly what's going to be happening with Ethereum in the future. Anyway, not to spend too much time on what the largest Russian bank is going to be doing, but pay attention to some of the larger actual adoption. And even when things aren't working out as well, always try to read between the lines and figure out why would they continue using. I mean, I'm not trying to have like subsections of this video where I just kind of continue rambling on about these things that are happening, but it's very fascinating. It's fascinating to see anything actually taking place within Russia. Russia was very anti-crypto and then for crypto and then kind of didn't talk about crypto, and apparently a month and a half ago, we were supposed to have had crypto regulation. But anyway, that aside, let's move on. Almost impossible to get away from it. Facebook's initiative to create an accessible, frictionless, globally available cryptocurrency and payments network is brushing up against unprecedented regulatory hurdles, at least according to a new report from Reuters. Though the social media company is taking steps to comply with watchdogs around the world, many experts are concerned that it won't be enough. Oh, for those who don't understand exactly what it means to be a blockchain, I'm going to try my best to simply explain it to you in the nicest way possible. Your blockchain has to be frictionless, permissionless, and has to be available for everyone around the world. This is why Facebook's coin is not a cryptocurrency, because it requires permission. What they are doing is that they are trying to become the largest central bank in the world, and they don't care about your privacy. They don't care about what you have, what you're doing. They want all of your information because they are going to sell this to other companies. And the moment that you are allowing them to have access to your financial data that they are just selling to other people, you become a... You know what I'm trying to say. I went through the Rolodex in my head and could not find a nice word for it. What Facebook is trying to do is pretty much take over the world, and this is why it says globally available cryptocurrency, which is not going to happen. It is this coin, whatever they're trying to do, is not going to be accessible for millions of people around the world. What makes Bitcoin, Ether, even XRP, Litecoin, and many of the other coins I don't even care about out there really special is that even if people in India or Iraq or Iran or any other country that you can think of want to use them, they can also use them. I believe in the future of cryptocurrencies because of the inclusion that it allows millions and billions with the B of people around the world to be able to have if they so choose. So this is why we've seen the price of Bitcoin going up and the amount of Bitcoin adoption around the world rapidly rising, because as tensions have risen economically and politically and all this other stuff around the world, we've seen people being able to buy up fragments of Bitcoin to be able to feed their families to avoid the hyperinflation, even when their governments have said, no, you cannot do this. And what Facebook is doing, especially as they try to get a whole bunch of licenses and a whole bunch of other stuff, is make sure that the world continues to be exactly as it is, and that for the billions of people in South America and in Africa and in parts of Asia, and for the heck of it, even parts of Europe and North America who do not have access to finance, that they remain this way, or if they so choose to do so, can use Facebook's platform and have all of their data siphoned off by one company. And all of this information, all of your information, will then go to companies and governments around the world. Can you imagine what that's going to do when all these people around the world start using Facebook's cryptocurrency and they've done something wrong within their country, and that country says, nope, we are blocking your Facebook account and therefore also blocking the money that you have on that platform? What that's going to do to people who are trying to use it. Like, you have to understand that not only is this about money, it's also about politics, and it's about the politics of countries trying to keep as much control as possible. This is why when you hear all these countries running forward talking about, we need more information, I need to know exactly what you're going to be doing, because they want to also make sure that while Facebook is reaching into the jar to take out a cookie, that their hand is inside just as far as Facebook. So that should something happen, that should you do something that a government does not agree with, that you do something that a local law enforcement agency does not think that you should be doing, that they can simply go and tell Facebook or any other entity, shut down what they're doing. We saw this. If you think that cannot happen, I mentioned before and in many other videos, people have had their bank accounts frozen and shut down because they purchased fragments of Bitcoin on Coinbase. They purchased it. They didn't use it. They didn't buy anything illegal. No black market trading. They didn't buy anything on the street. They didn't do anything wrong. They purchased Bitcoin on Coinbase and their accounts were frozen. What do you think is going to happen if billions of people start using a platform that governments also have access to and all of your data, and they see that you did? Imagine living in a country where you can't say what you want to say, and you write something on your Facebook. Stupid fly. Write something on your Facebook that your government does not agree with. You try to refresh or click open a new tab, and because AI has seen exactly what you said, your Facebook is locked. You are shadow blocked. Lo and behold, you were using Facebook as your bank account. You had about $8,000 on there that you no longer have access to until you do something nice and you play nice and you put your head down and you do exactly what your government says because you spoke up against them. For those who don't think that that is a possibility or that sounds too far ahead into the future, take out your phone, take out your tablet, open a new tab, and Google the China Sesame Credit Score. It's already happening. This is the world that we live in. And this is why things like Facebook coin are incredibly detrimental to our future as humans. And that's not even an exaggeration. That is as truthful as it gets. Facebook's path forward will involve careful orchestration with central banks, financial overseers, and enforcement officials around the world. This administrative tightrope walk may involve literally hundreds, perhaps thousands of licenses from hundreds of different regulators. You know who doesn't need hundreds, maybe even thousands of licenses? Bitcoin. Because it's permissionless and anyone around the world can have access to it. This is why Bitcoin is going to make it. This is why Bitcoin is going to survive, because you cannot tell people that they cannot have access to something that they own. You can't tell people, you said something wrong, you can't use this anymore. You live in this country, you don't have access to this. We don't like what you're doing, what you're saying, how you look. You are not part of the financial system anymore. That is not how the world is going to form. And that's not how the world is going to continue. And this is why we see things like this. This is why you have to understand, regardless of what coin you like, regardless of how many altcoins you hold, regardless of how much of something you are buying, regardless of how cheap of a coin looks, and you bought up 10,000 of it because you think you're going to make a lot of profit, please understand the entire point of Bitcoin is against things like Facebook coin. I don't know how much clearer I can make that. I mentioned it before and many other videos. For those of you who are new or just need to be reminded, it is probably a good idea for you to at least hold some Bitcoin. The point of Bitcoin is not to make you rich or to make you buy a yacht. I've seen a lot of yacht comments the last couple of weeks. Or to you to be able to buy new shoes, or to buy your girlfriend a new house, or to buy your mother so-and-so. It is because we are slowly, rapidly inching towards a world where people will not be able to do with their own money as they wish. All your data will be siphoned off by different companies. This is why Amazon and Facebook are so strong right now, is because they have all of your data. They know exactly what you're doing, where you're going, who you're with. Have you ever uploaded a photo to Facebook and it says, should we tag these 3 people? And it knows exactly who they are. It also has your geolocation and it knows exactly where you did it, exactly what store, exactly which restaurant. Everything that you do online is being siphoned away by these companies and being held forever. The last thing you want to do is to give them any more power by letting them know exactly what you're buying. I've heard before from people, well, I I don't do anything illegal. The things that I buy are totally fine. I can't even open a history book. Do you know how many other times that's happened throughout history where people thought they weren't doing anything wrong and governments go, nope, that's now illegal. And they look through what you've done before and shut you down because of it. I'm pretty sure you've all heard. Remember a couple years ago when Facebook was kind of relatively new, people were just kind of getting onto it. Let's say a good like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. And then we started having that situation where companies, when they're trying to hire people, were looking through their social media accounts and then firing them or just not hiring them because everything that they had done was on these platforms. Like, do you understand where all of this is going? Do you understand why Bitcoin is the king of everything? Because it is permissionless. No one needs thousands of licenses from different countries around the world. You can simply buy it. You can simply use it. This is going to continue. More people around the world who are economically stuck, who are falling apart and not doing very well, they're going to continue buying fragments of Bitcoin to be able to save them and their families, to give them a better life, because this is the only way that they're finding ways to transact money. I don't know if I mentioned this the other day. Podcast I listened to about a month and a half ago, they were talking to different people from around the world, and they were talking to them about how Bitcoin had impacted their lives. These weren't rich people. These weren't wealthy people. These weren't these CEOs, IEOs, ABCs of any companies. And they were asking them, they said, why have you started using Bitcoin? They said, because they said, I'm from this country. I'm not going to single out any one country. And they said, my country's currently under sanctions by the US government. And they said, when I went to this other country to go to school, to work, to live, where I got married, I realized that because of my passport, because of my name, I was usually put into a blacklist and I wasn't actually able to open up a bank account. And even more difficult when I tried to use MoneyGram or Western Union to try and send money back to my family or to get money from them. And I had to pay exorbitant fees, 10, 15, 25%, because my country was also on another blacklist because of what this country said. So they said, I took the money that I got from my job, in cash, because I don't have a bank account, and they went to a Bitcoin ATM, put their money into it, and on their phone, they had this new way to be able to transact with people around the world without ever having to ask for permission again. And they said, with that money, I was able to send this back to my wife, to our kids, to our family, to my sick mother, and even more so because the price of Bitcoin had risen, their families were not only able to pay for food, but also to do upgrades to their houses, to their homes. Like, do you understand this world that's being built around us? We are in a dystopian world right now. It's not even whether you want to believe that or not. Like I said before, some people think, whatever. The point is, the parallel world that's being built rapidly next to Bitcoin and Ether and every other permissionless cryptocurrency is one of control, where it's being touted to you as a quick, easy, amazing, accessible, fun, cool, awesome way to be able to send back value back and forth, to be able to tag your friends, to be able to show what you're eating. Where are you eating? Did you like it? Was it amazing? Was it cool? Tell us exactly where you were and who you were with and exactly what you were eating and at what time. Tell us where you're going on vacation. They're taking everything from you without you even arguing that they're taking it anymore. Please pay attention to where all of this is going and understand why, when we talk about decentralized platforms and decentralized exchanges and decentralized cryptocurrencies, why they are important and why the world is going to shift this way. We have reached a pinnacle in the world where we are at a point where governments have gotten so used to be able to scare us and tell people what you can and cannot do and how much of it you can do and at what time you can do it. You can only scare people for so long before people look for an alternative to feed their families, to do what they need to do to be able to survive. And this is why Bitcoin is important and why Bitcoin is more than likely going to take over the world. I cannot make that any clearer. I have a very strange feeling in about a good 6 months, I'm going to have this discussion all over again for the brand newer people who get into Bitcoin when it's around $25,000, $30,000 because they're just in it for the money. The money is great. The money's fine. I'm an investor. I get it. I love making money. It's awesome. But understand the power of this money and why we have it and why it's going to continue taking over the world. It's because people don't want what Facebook and what governments are doing. And this is the only other option that we have right now is Bitcoin. And it's a great option because anyone can use it whenever they want, and no one can tell you that you cannot, regardless of what someone writes on the wall or writes on a piece of paper. There are people around the world who are still figuring out, hey, I can't do X, Y, and Z because they're telling me I can't do it, but I can because I can buy Bitcoin and I can send money to everyone around the world. Got a bit off topic. However, so far, Calibra, a Facebook subsidiary that will develop a wallet and financial services for the Facebook ecosystem, has registered as a money services business with the U.S. Financial Crimes and Enforcement Network, or FinCEN, applied for a money transfer license in the United States, and began the process to obtain a BIT license from New York's Department of Financial Services. The company has also reportedly spoken with authorities at Britain's Financial Conduct Authority, the Bank of England, and Switzerland's financial regulator, FINMA. Additionally, the Russian Finister, we just spoke about that as well about Russia. Please understand where all of this is going. Facebook does not have your best interest in mind. I try to, a lot of them, it's a very difficult thing to try and do because for those who don't know, I think a lot of the older people who've been here before know, I get around 30 to 40 emails a day. That's not a joke. With companies asking me to promote their products, to promote their so-and-so, and they offer me a lot of money, and I don't say no. I don't say yes to any of them. I don't promote any of them on this channel because I try to make sure that everyone has a clear understanding or like a very unbiased view of what's happening in the cryptocurrency space. A lot of people in the comment section keep saying that I'm biased because I don't talk about their crappy coins. Excuse my language, but it's completely true. You have to understand what all of this means and why Bitcoin is as powerful as it actually is right now. It's very difficult because I would love to talk more about other decentralized platforms and other platforms that people can kind of switch over to. This is why I kind of still am 50-50 when it comes to Voice by the people from EOS who are trying to make a decentralized, like social media platform. Apparently, according to new reports, or so saith the people on the internet, apparently you will be able to create accounts. This is what they said. You'll be able to create accounts without an ID, which is kind of the main point of Voice, that you will be able to, rather that you had to create a social media platform with an ID so that they knew you were a real person, but nobody who needs to upload their freaking ID to be able to use a social media platform. Anyway, the point is, I would love to talk more about things like this because I think there needs to be a rapid shift away from Facebook. Facebook in general and Instagram are not doing very well amongst younger people, but there are a lot of older people, especially parents and grandparents, who are obsessed with Facebook. And it's this really weird world where we need to get away from things like this, but it's very difficult because there are a lot of people, especially Facebook has been trying to make sure that they get people from parts of Africa, parts of South America, and parts of Asia who currently didn't have access to their platforms. And this is why Facebook keeps boasting about how they have, I think it's like 2.7 billion people across all their platforms, because they finally been greenlit to kind of walk into these other countries and get people to, to put up ads and say, use Facebook, we're awesome, we're cool. But it's also caused, it's very sad what they're doing and how they're doing it. And yeah, I'm not trying to talk for another 35 minutes about this, but understand what all of this is about. Facebook isn't doing this to make the world better for you. It's to make the world better for their pockets and all of their other investors, to make them richer, and for other companies to be able to have extra data to be able to use, because data in this age is money, and Facebook only cares about making money. You see where this is all going? Let's move on. Next up, G20 leaders reaffirmed their previous stance towards cryptocurrencies in a declaration following the G20 summit in Osaka on the 29th of June. In the declaration, the G20 leaders stated that cryptocurrencies do not currently constitute a threat to monetary stability, and that technological innovation can deliver significant benefits to the economy. The participants also welcomed the ongoing work of those assets by the Financial Stability Board, and other standard-setting bodies and encourages multilateral responses when needed. The authors of the declaration also reaffirmed their determination to comply with the updated Financial Action Task Force anti-money laundering and counterterrorism financial standards for cryptocurrencies. The document notes that the co-signers are also continuing to step up their commitments to enhancing cybersecurity. The most important part right here is them not finding cryptocurrencies to be a threat. For those of you who were not here before or did not hear me say this, this is probably one of the greatest sentences that keeps being readdressed or restated by the people from the G20. Many years ago, a lot of the earliest Bitcoin developers were actually terrified of what governments could do to the Bitcoin blockchain because of not the instability of it, but because it was incredibly brand new. It would have only, at the very first couple of years of Bitcoin, it would have taken a couple $1 million to destroy the Bitcoin blockchain, to completely dismantle it, to destroy the entire thing. And because of this, or rather, parallel time, when Bitcoin's blockchain was incredibly fragile, governments didn't care about it. It made the news. Bitcoin hit 10 cents. Wow, that's amazing. Bitcoin hit 80 cents. Wow, my gosh, made so much money. Bitcoin hit $1, $12, back down to $3, hit 15, back down to 2. It was this constant up and down that governments made it a priority of theirs not to pay any attention to the cryptocurrency space, or at this moment it was just Bitcoin. As government leaders continue to try to create their own cryptocurrencies or continue to think that crypto isn't a threat to them, the stronger the cryptocurrency space gets. I forgot the exact timeline for it, but there's a quote somewhere online. I'm pretty sure you can find it. It says like every 24 hours that the Bitcoin blockchain stays alive, like the stronger it gets. I forgot exactly how it was phrased, but every day that goes by that governments, countries, organizations, whatever, don't consider Bitcoin to be a threat, the stronger the network actually becomes and more robust, and the more money that it would actually take to be able to dismantle the Bitcoin blockchain, which is nothing is impossible, but it's fairly uncertain at this point. And this is why I love news about other institutions and big money getting into it, because it pretty much comes down to big money won't allow other people to be able to dismantle or destroy something that they're also trying to make money from. If that kind of makes any sense. They're more incentivized to keep Bitcoin alive to make more money, which only allows Bitcoin to become stronger and more robust and kind of continue to outpace other cryptocurrencies. So the point is that the leaders of the world, the G20 leaders as they are called, constantly redeclaring every 6 months or so that cryptocurrencies don't constitute a threat to the monetary stability is incredible. They will at some point change their tone. It's going to happen. I assume we're about a year or so away from them actually doing that. I assume the madness that we see surrounding Facebook right now from other governments and organizations talking about how, we have to stop this, Facebook has to be stopped, is going to come to the Bitcoin front door when Bitcoin is over the $1 trillion market cap. I think Bitcoin has to hit, 50,000 per coin. That's going to be the moment where we see a lot of government backlash. At that point, it'll be far too late. A Bitcoin with $1 trillion market cap means that hundreds of millions of people around the world either own fragments of Bitcoin, or Bitcoin is swinging back and forth value at a tremendous pace. I think Bitcoin outpaced. I think trillions of dollars were transacted just on Bitcoin last year alone, which is more than most countries. Like it's absolutely incredible how large this is growing. And once we end up hitting one day that magical $250,000 Bitcoin, that's when we're going to see like the real fight actually start. But at that point, it'll be far too late, because for those of you who don't know, there was a company in Switzerland last year who did the calculations, and they said that the moment that Bitcoin is worth $250,000 per coin, it'll be strong enough to actually usurp and or displace and or remove or push aside the US dollar. But as long as governments continue day by day thinking that we're not a threat, it only helps us to become stronger. It's very fascinating, and I'm excited. I don't want to rush time, but I'm excited. Let's say the year 2035 to read the books that will come out about this moment right now in the cryptocurrency space and how things were allowed to grow simply because of the previous inactivity of governments, and even right now with them believing that everything is going to remain the same and that they will still be in, or that they will be the status quo. And that's not how things are going to work out. Yeah. To kind of finish things off, Germany's Christian Democratic Union, or the CDU, and sister party, the Bavarian-based Christian Social Union, or CSU, have released a joint report calling for the setting up of a German euro-backed stablecoin cryptocurrency. The two parties are in government along the Social Democrats. The move in the European Union's largest economy comes as governments and regulators around the world react with a mixture of alarm and fear to the announcement of the Libra coin by Facebook. Years of dragging on introducing regulations for crypto assets has left the global financial authorities behind the curve, and they are now playing catch up fast, but they won't be able to. This is why there's a dead horse and I'm beating it. I have a stick. I'm beating the dead horse. For those who don't know what that phrase means, or if English is not your first language, please Google it. I'm not crazy. I'm not just beating a dead horse. The point is, they've taken so long, and this is why the only thing that they focused on are permissioned blockchains, or ICOs, or STOs, or IEOs, or what's the other one? What's the other thing that regulators are paying attention to besides Facebook coin? This is all they can kind of do right now, because they took years thinking that none of this would progress. And lo and behold, Bitcoin is still the largest cryptocurrency and is probably going to remain as such. And the only thing that they can do is put things in place to try and scare other people, like with the thing that the Financial Action Task Force has put into place, where they're talking about, you can't do this, you can't do that. And there we go, cryptocurrency exchanges. And this is why I was mentioning before to someone else. Someone had mentioned in the comment section, why would they want to use atomic swaps or decentralized exchanges when they already have Coinbase? And sometimes I read comments and I try to answer back to them, but I feel my brain leaking out of my ears, because it's like it would take years to really explain to them why these things are significant, or why governments are trying their best to control the situation of cryptocurrencies. The best that they're able to do as of right now is control the release of them, or ICOs. Like they can't stop airdrops or control cryptocurrency exchanges. But in the next couple of years, especially as we see Binance's decentralized exchange become a thing, and many other decentralized exchanges also taking shape, we will slowly move away from those centralized platforms to decentralized ones that governments have no control over at all. And even further into the future, you'll simply be able to use your phone and atomically swap between Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ether and XRP. It'll take you a second. You won't have to use a cryptocurrency exchange anymore. And this is where it's, in the nicest way of saying it, it's too late for governments to really get this under control, because as it says up here, the ball's already rolling on so many other initiatives. And I think the final steps of this entire process, in my eyes, will be the creation of multiple government cryptocurrencies. I have a feeling that they're going to try and merge them together, because everyone's creating their own. I mean, the CDU and the CSU trying to create a German euro-backed stablecoin is a little ridiculous. Other countries have also come out talking about, we want to also create our own coin, our own stablecoin, our own so-and-so and so. I think a lot of these are going to fail horribly. I think what they're going to do at some point is going to try and create a world consortium where they're trying to get multiple countries to use their coin, the same exact thing that JP Morgan Chase is trying to use, which I think is also not going to do very well, because I think many people around the world are not going to be too excited about using a JP Morgan coin, especially if you are a completely different bank. And the final thing that's going to happen is that they're going to try and create these things at the exact same time to try and mount pressure onto Bitcoin, or telling other people within their countries, you can't do this, you can't so and so and so. And for those who don't know, private layers or private transactions are going to be a thing on Bitcoin at some point. It may not be a year, it may not be next year, it may not be next year, but it's going to eventually happen. These things are in the works. We know that they're also being planned. There are other side chains such as Liquid and stuff as well. Like, there's so many things where Bitcoin is going to be able to have private transactions. And when we finally have private transactions on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has crossed that golden $250,000 number, there will be no other opponents for Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be the victor at the top of all of it. That's not to say that other coins won't still exist, but there will be nothing to challenge Bitcoin at that point, because Bitcoin is already a worldwide currency. For those who didn't get that, Bitcoin is already being used. I implore you, take an hour out of your day and watch documentaries on Bitcoin, the usage of Bitcoin in China, in South America, in Africa, in North America, in Europe, everywhere around the world, in Japan, where people are using this as a daily thing to transact value back and forth, to live their entire lives on. And Bitcoin is already a worldwide currency. Then what we're waiting for is the eventual, inevitable toppling of the old financial system. And this is once again why I say, as of right now, logically speaking, it looks like Bitcoin is going to usher in this new era of financial inclusion for people around the world. I think my opinion, that everyone should decide if Bitcoin should be part of their portfolio or part of their life, or if they should start acquiring fractions of Bitcoin whenever they have some extra disposable income. Because the last thing that I want, is for people who have been listening to this channel for quite some time to not have any Bitcoin themselves. And if Bitcoin does end up hitting potentially one day $250,000 and you don't own any, you're going to be really upset, because you're then going to be one of those people who has to FOMO into the market and buy 10,000 Satoshis, hoping that the price of Bitcoin ends up hitting 100 million just so you could have made some really good money. Hope you understand what I'm saying. But yeah, the point is, they're trying to, a German euro-backed stablecoin, go for it. I give it a good 2 years. I think European countries are a bit more conservative or afraid of what the ramifications of this could be, that I think within the next 2.5 years, we're probably going to get some type of news from the European Union of their plans to potentially create a digital euro, not a stable coin, or rather not something that some other company is making, but to make their own that's going to be issued through the central bank. But at that point, this will be in response to Bitcoin having gone up so high in value that it's then a very large store of value. Just kind of how I feel. I feel like a lot of governments want to announce this, but I think a lot of them are too afraid of scaring the bankers or general population of what could come. Because like I said, as a country or a government or a central bank, you can't announce that you have come to the conclusion that Bitcoin is more powerful or will eventually become more powerful than what you are currently doing. You would cause millions, if not hundreds of millions of people to throw as much money as possible into Bitcoin. And I still feel like that governments are in this very odd accumulation phase. It seems very obvious at this point that it's happening, but I feel like that they need to get more themselves. Isn't it? Okay, think about it this way. Isn't it weird? There's at least a country around the world who's buying up Bitcoin. Isn't it weird to think that there are people in that country who are paying taxes to that government, and the government's using those taxes to be able to buy up Bitcoin that the people within their country won't have access to because it then belongs to the government? Isn't that odd to think of? That's kind of, wow. Anyway, there we go. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters: Kyle Chassé, Auspicious Agile and Blockchain Professor Wally from Gunbot University, my Keto Kitchen, Adobo, Crypto and Beer Shipmate, Brady Niels, L. Doug, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, Crypto Joe, Mohair Maroney, Carl Birchenoff, singer-songwriter Mike Savitz, Rai Rai, Yasha Harari, Amy Starsheen, Jeffrey Ramsey, Clara T. Snowden, Crypto Artist, Cole D, 3D, Nicholas, One Earth, One Piece, One Love, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich, The Third, RF Dusty, Cody, Vlad the Impaler, Paxis, Tom Sucks at Basketball, then Sam Skips Leg Day, Jeremy the Photographer, Jim Gardner, Minting Coins, Arthur Yanko, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, and Mechanic. Thank you all very, very much for your support. At the moment, the prices of the cryptocurrency market are currently going up. For those who are not looking at the screen, Bitcoin at the time of me making this video is currently floating around the $11,300 level. It is up by 12.34%. I assume a large part of this has to do with the falsified dip, in my opinion, that we had a couple of days ago where people were trying to push down the price of Bitcoin as much as possible, and Bitcoin went below $10,000 for a brief moment in time, shot back up, and this is what I think this is indicative of. Also, for those who are not paying attention, we do have at least 2 companies who have been given the go-ahead for physically settled Bitcoin futures. That is going to cause an enormous amount of volume into the cryptocurrency space, into the Bitcoin place. When we start getting news on traditional television about people who made 30 million, 50 million, 40 million off of Bitcoin futures, this propels normal people to start putting their money into the cryptocurrency space. And this is why I keep repeating that I think we're very lucky to be into crypto right now before the masses really know about it. These are the prices of the cryptocurrencies. These aren't even the all-time highs of cryptocurrencies. Before we have billions of people in the market, it is estimated that we have anywhere between maybe 50 to 90 million people around the world into cryptocurrency. When we 10x that and get over 1 billion people into the cryptocurrency market, this is also going to cause a flurry. Like it won't even cause a 10x in the price. It'll probably be a 20 to 30x in price, because people, even right now who are listening to this, you probably have more income than you are probably putting into the cryptocurrency space. That is not financial advice, but people start to put more when they see the prices going up even higher. And this is why it's going to be a very fantastic future for the early adopters of cryptocurrency. Even Ether at 300, when we're getting predictions of an Ether between $7,000 to $10,000 over the next couple of years, kind of indicative of where everything is going to go. Also, for those who are not looking at the screen, it is very fascinating to see that once again, the Satoshi prices of all these coins are also once again in the red. They're all falling down. Ether's down 6%, XRP down 10%, 8%, 8%, 9%, 8%. Even Tether is down 12% Satoshi price-wise. Very, very fascinating that everyone is once again selling off their altcoins and pushing them into Bitcoin. I hope that you all enjoyed. I hope that you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and listening. Don't forget to watch documentaries on anything about Bitcoin. And I mean anything. Like, even over the last 2 years, I think sometimes as people, we lose focus on things that are happening on other sides of the world because we are so, I mean, listen, our lives are difficult sometimes, so we have to pay attention to what's happening in our lives. Try to see and understand what's happening with cryptocurrencies around the entire world. It's very fascinating what's happening with Bitcoin. And please, if you don't read something from Andreas Antonopoulos, listen to a speech by him, something, so you get an understanding of exactly what's happening. He has been probably one of the most influential people in the cryptocurrency space, because even things that he was talking about 5 or 6 years ago, like I said before in other videos, has just about come true. And it's not like predicting the price. He says he doesn't care about the price. What's important is to note that the things that he was talking about economic changes, collapsing of governments, hyperinflation, people around the world who would be told that they can't do what they want with their own money, and realizing and finding out what Bitcoin is and how important Bitcoin was going to become, everything has come true. So if you get a chance, his name is Andreas Antonopoulos, Antonopoulos. If you type in Andreas Bitcoin, Andreas, you'll find it very easily. His last name is a bit too long. Anyway, thank you all once again for watching and listening, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.